Leave no one alive.
We stick together. That's how we win this.
The only recap you need before Invincible Season 4. Now that we have a release date for Invincible, which is March 18th by the way, it's time to jog our memories. It's been more than a year since Season 3 premiered on Amazon Prime, so honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you've forgotten some key details or where the story left off. So if you need a complete refresher before the new season arrives, this is the only recap video you'll need. Today I'll be breaking down everything that happened across Seasons 1, 2, and 3, everything you need to remember before Season 4 arrives. Let's get into it. Mark finally becomes a superhero. Let's start at the very beginning. We are introduced to Mark Grayson. He is a normal teenager who gets bullied in school. He has a crush on Amber Bennett, a girl from his school. But one day, when he turns 18, he gets his superpowers. It's not something unexpected or surprising because Mark has been waiting for this day for years. His father is a superhero, and not just a regular superhero, but the most powerful superhero of Earth, Omni-Man. His human name is Nolan Grayson. He comes from the planet Viltrum, which is so advanced and developed that they go to other planets to help them. Nolan too came to Earth years ago to protect it, and fell in love with a human woman named Debbie. When Mark discovers his superpowers, which are similar to those of his father, Nolan teaches him how to use them. He's a harsh teacher to Mark, constantly pushing his limits, telling him real combat is extremely dangerous. Mark receives his blue and yellow superhero costume and establishes himself as the superhero Invincible. Mark is now dating Amber, and he's part of a team called Teen Team, headed by Robot. They're not the best of heroes, but they try. Among his teammates are Duplicate, who can make copies of herself, Rex Explode, who can turn anything into explosives when thrown, and Atom Eve, who can manipulate matter on a molecular level. Dating Amber isn't going really well either, because Mark gets called on missions. He keeps missing dates and lying about it, which angers Amber.
All clear.
The building is clear. It's just us.
The massacre of the strongest superheroes. The Invincible universe is full of people with superpowers, aliens, and mutants. Some of them use their superpowers to help others, while others use them for selfish reasons. Earth's greatest superhero team call themselves the Guardians of the Globe. One day they are urgently summoned, and when they reach their headquarters, they find themselves coming face to face with Omni-Man, who proceeds to kill them all. While fighting them, Omni-Man is injured, but he survives. Now that the Guardians of the Globe are dead, there is no one to protect Earth from Flaxons, a group of extra-dimensional aliens who invade Earth. Mark quickly realizes that being a hero isn't all that glamorous. During alien invasions and disasters, civilians die despite his efforts. In one early battle against the Flaxons, Mark freezes in fear after witnessing mass casualties. But weirdly, the Flaxons begin to age and retreat. Their aging is accelerated when they are on Earth, and that is why they can't stay on Earth for long. They attack again once they figure out how not to age on Earth. Omni-Man once again saves Earth as he flies into one of those portals and destroys the Flaxons' entire civilization in retaliation. Yep, he's that powerful. The Global Defense Agency is investigating the deaths of all the superheroes. They suspect Omni-Man is responsible, but cannot prove it, so Cecil secretly places the Grayson family under surveillance. He decides to investigate Invincible, check his loyalty, and test his superpowers, so he asks him to go to space, as there is an object roaming about in space. When he goes to investigate, he finds out that it is an alien named Alan, who tells Mark about the coalition of planets, who act against galactic threats. At the same time, demon detective Damien Darkblood investigates independently and concludes that Omni-Man himself is the killer of the Guardians of the Globe. He has no hard evidence, and so he plants a seed of doubt in Debbie's mind. Debbie's suspicions grow further when she finds Omni-Man's superhero costume covered in blood. But before his investigation could amount to anything, Darkblood is sent back to hell by the Global Defense Agency, who decide he is dangerous. Meet the new Guardians of the Globe. To replace the Guardians of the Globe, the Global Defense Agency employed Robot to gather a new team. Along with Rex and Duplicate, he takes in Monster Girl, who can turn into a green monster, but every transformation reduces her age, Shrinking Ray, who can shrink in size, and Black Samson, who has a special suit but has lost his superpowers. Adam Eve refused to join the team because she's disillusioned with superhero politics and because her boyfriend Rex cheated on her with Duplicate. So she decides to become a lone hero to help people directly, and becomes a close friend to Mark. Together they fight villains and save people. The Global Defense Agency again has Mark go to Mars, and his mission is to protect the astronauts visiting Mars secretly without being seen. Mark quickly loses track of the astronauts and tracks them to find that a group of Martians wants to kill the researchers. The Martians are scared that a parasitic creature called the Sequids will take over the bodies of the astronauts and conquer Mars. Anyhow, Mark saves the astronauts, but one Martian takes on the body of Russ Livingston and goes back with Mark. Meanwhile, the real Russ Livingston's body is taken over by the Sequids, and they begin their hostile takeover of Mars. Now, let's come back to Earth. A man with superpowers, nicknamed Titan, contacts Mark and asks for his help. His daughter has been kidnapped by a local crime boss called Machine Head, but once they reach there, a group of supervillains arrive and nearly kill Mark. Omni-Man watches this from afar, and seeing his son in danger, he calls upon the new Guardians of the Globe to help Mark. They arrive and destroy Mark, but Thok, the strongest of all villains, defeats them easily and leaves, saying he's ashamed to fight them. The gang fights the rest of the villains. It was all actually a setup by Titan, who takes up the mantle of Machine Head and becomes the new head of the crime ring. Now, let's take a look at what is going on with the new Guardians of the Globe. Black Samson has regained his superpowers, and Robot has fallen in love with Monster Girl. Robot is temporarily allied with the Mauler twins, who've mastered cloning. Using a sample of Rex's blood, Robot tries to clone a human body, and this is where Robot's real identity is revealed. He's named Rudolph Connors, and he controls the robot sitting in a pod because of his extreme deformity. The Mauler twins clone a human body, a child version of Rex, and transfer Rudolph's consciousness to this body, creating a new body for Rudy, aka Robot. He frames the twins, but before they can get arrested, they escape. The twins decide to get their revenge by digging up the body of the Immortal, a former member of the Guardians of the Globe, resurrecting him and trying to control his body. But they fail, and the twins are arrested. Mark's best friend William, Amber, and Mark go to another city for a campus tour. William actually has a crush on this guy named Rick, but he gets kidnapped by a student named D.A. Sinclair, who turns students into mindless killing robots. Mark manages to fight him off and save the students, ultimately revealing his identity as Invincible to William and Amber, but Amber breaks up with him.
I will burn this planet down.
The truth about the Viltrumites. Meanwhile, Debbie Grayson begins noticing subtle changes in Nolan's behavior. With help from Art Rosenbaum, who examines his bloodied superhero costume, she discovers that Omni-Man is responsible for the Guardians' massacre. Debbie confronts her husband, but he just walks away. The Global Defense Agency decides to hide Debbie when they realize a confrontation with Omni-Man is unavoidable. When Omni-Man fails to find his wife and finds out that the Global Defense Agency is keeping an eye on his home, he kills them all. He then goes searching for his son, but the Immortal whom the twins revived attacks Omni-Man. He remembers that Omni-Man killed them and wants revenge, but Omni-Man once again defeats him. Finally, he comes face to face with Mark and reveals the truth to him. The Viltrumites are an advanced civilization, but they don't want to protect other planets. They send one of their own to every planet as a hero who came to protect that planet. When they begin to trust him, he weakens the defense of that planet, and eventually the Viltrumites' army comes and conquers the planet. This is why he killed the Guardians of the Globe, since they were the only ones who could have resisted the Viltrumites. Omni-Man asks his son to join him in his plan, but Mark refuses. This disagreement leads to a battle between father and son. Omni-Man attempts to prove humanity's insignificance by forcing Mark to witness mass destruction firsthand, destroying an entire city. Yet Mark refuses to surrender his compassion. Mark reminds him of their shared life and the memories they have together. It makes Nolan hesitate, and the emotional conflict between his Viltrumite duty and his love for his family becomes unbearable. Unable to kill Mark, Omni-Man leaves Earth, flying into space. Season 1 ends with Cecil telling Mark that he heard his conversation with his father. Mark again goes to speak with Alan the alien, who asks him to join the coalition to stop the Viltrumites from conquering other planets.
No! That's enough! I said stop!
Angstrom Levy vows revenge. Season 2 starts with Mark depressed about the events that transpired in Season 1. He desperately wants to protect humanity, but Cecil thinks he's not ready yet. Now we travel to an alternate universe where Mark decides to side with his father to enslave Earth. Together they destroy all the remaining superheroes on Earth. We're introduced to the scientist Angstrom Levy, who has the ability to travel between dimensions and is the overarching enemy of Season 2. He manages to escape to another dimension while Mark and his father are on a killing spree. So now he wants revenge and comes to Mark's reality. Remember the Mauler twins from Season 1? Levy helps them escape and, with their help, builds a device that manages to merge the consciousness of all versions of Angstrom Levy from different dimensions. Cecil sends Mark to investigate this. At this point, Levy is still the good guy who stops the twins from killing Mark, but when he tries to turn the machine off, it explodes. Levy is driven mad by the memories of all variations of himself in the multiverse, and this marks the beginning of his villain era, as he decides to take revenge on Mark, who's actually a good guy in this universe. Cecil crosses the line. Cecil basically goes crazy, recognizing that Omni-Man's departure means the Viltrumite Empire will eventually come looking for him. He appoints the resurrected Immortal to become the leader of the new Guardians of the Globe after Robot. The team see an inclusion of new heroes such as Bulletproof, who can absorb kinetic energy, and Shapesmith, the Martian, who was brought to Earth by Mark in Season 1. Mark, William, and Amber enroll in the same university. Mark and Amber revive their relationship, but it becomes increasingly difficult due to the emotional distance created by his trauma and responsibilities. Adam Eve is still active, but her focus is on humanitarian efforts rather than fighting supervillains. Mark fights a huge monster after diving into the ocean, but the monster screams and Invincible gets sick from the sound. This interests Cecil, and he asks his scientists to research it and use it as a weapon against the Viltrumites when they arrive. Mark also discovers that Cecil has been using dangerous technology from his father's battles and feels betrayed, believing Cecil has crossed ethical boundaries. Father and son reunite. Meanwhile, after fleeing Earth, Omni-Man arrives on the insectoid planet Thraxa and lives peacefully among its inhabitants. The Thraxans make Omni-Man their ruler, who saves them, and Nolan forms a new family and fathers a child. He sends a Thraxan to Earth to bring Mark to his planet, because he knows it's only a matter of time till the Viltrumites come and capture him for abandoning his mission. Mark reluctantly helps his father to defeat some Viltrumites, but they easily overpower Nolan. He is captured and sentenced to execution, but before being taken away, he cryptically tells Mark to read his books. The Viltrumites tell Mark to continue Nolan's mission of enslaving the Earth, or he'll face deadly consequences. Mark returns to Earth with his half-brother. Meanwhile, a huge ship is headed towards Earth from Mars. Shapesmith tells Cecil that the Sequids have taken over the human brain and are most likely coming to Earth to conquer it. Cecil sends the Guardians, as well as Atom Eve and Invincible, to stop the ship. They manage to detach the Sequid from the human brain, but as they return to Earth, we find that one of these Sequids has snuck into the planet and captured another human's mind. Mark's mother, Debbie, takes care of Mark's half-brother and names him Oliver, also hiring a nanny for him, April Ham. Now let's go back to those books Nolan told Mark about. While he was on Earth, Nolan authored many sci-fi novels. Reading these, Mark realizes that these books hold the secret of the Viltrumites. He goes to Alan for confirmation, who tells them the stories are based on real things. So, Mark realizes that there has to be a secret to defeat the Viltrumites in there.
Why do you think I was softening you up?
The final showdown. Meanwhile, Levy has grown obsessed with Mark. He holds Debbie and Oliver hostage to lure out Mark, leading to the final showdown of the season. They keep hopping universes while fighting, but when Mark sees Levy break his mother's arm, he is enraged. He keeps punching Levy, hopping universes until he manages to kill him. This devastates Mark, even though Levy was a villain, and he starts questioning himself if he's actually any different from his father. Now that he's killed Levy, he finds himself stuck in another universe. The Guardians from the future manage to find him and create a portal for him so he can return home. Adam Eve from the future tells Mark to tell the young Eve how he feels about her. It is suggested that she has always liked him, and she'd like to know if he feels something for her too. He goes back to his Earth and drops out of college. He decides not to talk to Amber, not wishing to endanger her, and to let her move on. Mark meets Eve, who hugs him lovingly, and it seems he'll tell her something, but he holds back. Season 2 ends with Omni-Man and Alan the Alien in Viltrumite prison. They communicate telepathically, and Omni-Man confesses that he regrets all that he's done, and he misses Debbie, his wife.
As for the rest of you,
Mark vs. Cecil. Season 3 starts with Mark training harder to defeat the Viltrumites, who will be coming to invade Earth soon. He's also struggling with his regret over killing Levy, because he promised himself he would never cross that line. Now he keeps holding himself back even when he fights the bad guys. Ever since his meeting with the older Eve, he had been avoiding Adam Eve, but then he finally worked up the courage and asked her out on a date. It was going well until Mark told her the entire incident with the older version of herself, embarrassing her. This puts their new relationship on hold. Meanwhile, Doc Seismic has been planning his revenge, sitting in a prison cell, and uses underground lava monsters to abduct all superheroes on the planet. Everyone gets abducted except Eve and Invincible. Cecil sends out the killer robots, which D.A. Sinclair developed, and Darkwing to hell. Mark is mad at this, and goes to the headquarters to confront Cecil about this. Using villains to fight villains goes against his moral code, apparently. Mark becomes too angry during the confrontation, so Cecil uses the robots to calm him, as well as a chip implanted in his mind, which causes him unbearable pain. Mark manages to escape and goes to the Defenders to ask for their help. Cecil asks them not to interfere, but they fight the cyborgs and get the chip out of Mark anyway. After this debacle, Mark cuts all ties with Cecil, and even the Guardians split up. Only Immortal, Shapesmith, Black Samson, and Duplicate remain as Guardians of the Globe. They are joined by Darkwing, who claims to be a reformed person. We get a look into Cecil's past. He was a special agent who sacrificed himself to save the entire city. During that incident, his skin melted off, but the government transplanted him with artificial skin. Cecil also shared Mark's morality in his youth, but with time, he realized he had to cross some lines to protect the world. Kid Omni-Man. Anyhow, Mark and Eve are now together, and Oliver has grown rapidly since he's shown to age much faster since he is Thraxan. He even gets his superpowers, and it worries Debbie and Mark. He is kind of brash and uses his superpower when he's not meant to. Mark teaches him to use his powers, and he wants to keep his superhero name to be Omni-Man, which Mark tells him is a bad idea, since people do not trust Omni-Man ever since his truth came out in the world. Oliver gets into a fight which he was not supposed to get into, and kills 2 villains. Oliver doesn't really care about human lives, so Mark scolds him and tells him there are some boundaries he shouldn't cross. Oliver understands Mark's words and regrets killing them. One day, when Mark is on a date with Eve, he is kidnapped by 2 time travelers and taken to the future. In this future, a dictator with superpowers has taken over Earth. They ask Invincible to kill this dictator. Turns out it was Mark and his family who put the guy in charge of Earth and left. But soon he started going mad and became a villain. Mark has to kill the guy, so he rips off his head, which he's sad to do. He's against killing, remember? Meanwhile, Debbie is dating a guy named Paul, who's shocked to find out that her ex was Omni-Man and her son is Invincible. That's a tough family dynamic to deal with. Invincible Inc. Eve and Mark also grapple with the fact that they are adults with no money. They set up a company called Invincible Inc. and provide security to a prison for people with superpowers, so they can call Invincible whenever they face any problem. Mr. Liu, head of a crime syndicate, asks Titan to get his best assassin out of jail or else he'll kill Titan and his entire family. Titan calls Invincible and asks him to take out the crime syndicate that Liu is the head of. Invincible reluctantly goes ahead with Titan's plan and tries to jailbreak Liu's best assassin. It doesn't go well, and Liu threatens Titan's family. Liu can transform himself into a dragon. He attacks the prison himself in this form, and Eve and Invincible stop him, and he is finally killed by Machine Head. This had been Titan's plan all along. I think we can agree he's a master manipulator and brilliant strategist. Machine Head takes Liu's place and leaves Titan in peace. Turns out Liu is still alive, resisting the Viltrumites. Meanwhile, Nolan is still stuck with Alan the alien in prison. Alan is basically trying to get Nolan to join the coalition and help them against the Viltrumites. Eventually, Nolan is somewhat convinced. When Nolan is taken for his execution, Alan breaks out of the cell and makes his way to the execution chamber. Nolan is still hesitant to fight the Viltrumites, but watching Alan get beaten up, he finally joins the fight. They break out of prison and Nolan reveals a secret to Alan. There are only 50 people left in the Viltrum Empire. We're now introduced to Scott Duvall. Remember when Mark fought his father in Season 1? Scott lost everything during that time, so now he hates superheroes, especially Invincible. He had some latent electric powers, and he keeps enhancing his superpowers. He pretends to kidnap his own wife to lure Invincible into a fight. They fight, but tragically his lightning bolt ends up killing his wife and his son, and he's sent to prison. Angstrom Levy strikes again. Now guess what? Angstrom Levy is alive! He escaped to a different dimension where the cyborgs of that dimension saved him. Mark needn't be so guilt-ridden, but turns out he still wants his revenge. He recruited all the evil Marks who sided with Nolan from different dimensions to help him defeat the Mark of this world. During the final climax, he unleashes his army. He doesn't expect them to kill Mark, but he wants the world to see him as a villain who murders and wreaks havoc. They fight, and we get to see Mark fighting different versions of himself. I think it's one of the best fights of the show. So our Mark defeats all the other Marks, and finally, he fights Levy. Mark finally realizes that he needs to kill the villains because they keep coming back. So when he's about to kill Levy for real, Levy escapes once again. He sends all the other evil Invincibles to a barren wasteland. He goes back to the dimensions where the cyborgs revived him. Turns out they aren't happy with the way he treated the Invincibles, so they force him to live his entire life serving them. Meanwhile, the Viltrumites send Conquest to check out how Mark is doing. Conquest is sadistic, even more so than the other Viltrumites, and Mark and Conquest fight, destroying another city. Oliver tries to help his brother, but in vain. So Eve comes to save the day. Apparently, she can manipulate sentient matter when under huge stress, making her the strongest superhero on the planet. Conquest punches her so hard that she is almost dead, but her powers amplify and she is completely healed. She fires a laser of pure energy and melts off Conquest's skin. Mark takes care of the rest and kills Conquest. Eve tells him that her near-death experience removes the limitations of her power, and now she can access its full potential. Character status check before Season 4. Let's take a moment to look at all the characters and see where they are and what they are doing before Season 4 arrives. Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, ends Season 3 at his lowest point. After fighting against Conquest, Mark is physically alive but exhausted, both physically and mentally. He is no longer limiting himself and has justified that he will need to kill in order to save Earth. This makes him worry that every fight is slowly pushing him closer to becoming like his father. Season 4's trailer shows a more serious and hardened Mark, suggesting he is beginning to accept that heroism might require him to cross lines he refused to cross before. Atom Eve ends Season 3 with her powers upgraded. One of the most important reveals is that the mental blocks limiting her powers are gone, meaning her abilities are now far more powerful than before. Going into Season 4, Eve has become one of Earth's most powerful defenders, and we have to wait and see how Eve and Mark's relationship progresses with bigger threats. Omni-Man, or Nolan Grayson, remains one of the biggest unresolved threads heading into the next season. Season 3 tells us that he genuinely regrets his actions, yet the Empire still sees him as a traitor to be punished. The Season 4 trailer teases his return and even hints about future confrontations with Thrag. His relationship with Mark also remains complicated. Debbie Grayson, at the end of Season 3, is still healing. However, Nolan's inevitable return threatens to reopen emotional wounds, and Season 4 may force Debbie to confront her past again. Oliver, Mark's younger half-brother, with his rapid rapid aging and emerging Viltrumite powers make him both hopeful and frightening. Unlike Mark, Oliver did not grow up fully human, and his understanding of morality is still developing. His development is likely to play a crucial role as the Viltrumite War approaches. Cecil ends the season walking an increasingly dangerous moral line. His mission has always been protecting Earth, but his methods have grown more extreme with every new threat. He was seen to be collaborating with D.A. Sinclair to rebuild his robot army at the end of Season 3. Alan the alien, who enters Season 4, is now a key player in the larger galactic story. After surviving imprisonment and gaining a new ally, Alan becomes deeply involved in Resistance efforts against the Viltrumite Empire. His connection to Mark may eventually pull Earth into a galaxy-wide rebellion. And of course, we see the biggest threat Mark will have to face in the Season 4 trailer, Grand Regent Thrag. The trailer confirms that Thrag, the ruthless leader of the Viltrumite Empire, will finally appear. He's the strongest Viltrumite to exist, representing the full power of the Empire itself. His arrival signals that the story is entering the long-awaited Viltrumite War arc, meaning Mark will be confronting the entire Viltrumite army. The trailer also teases additional enemies like Universa and Dinosaurus. So, now Mark must decide what kind of hero he wants to become. Eve must learn how far her new power can go. Nolan must face the consequences of his past, and Cecil must decide how far he's willing to go to save humanity. Thanks for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive and that it answered all the burning questions you had in mind. Of course, I'm super excited for Season 4 and to see what it brings. From the Season 4 trailer, we're sure that the stakes are rising, and I have huge expectations for the season. Do let me know what you expect from Season 4 in the comments below. I'll see you next time!